So welcome everybody. My name is Stephen Moore. I live here in Jupiter, Florida. I've been utilizing and recommending the PharmaNex products now for 15 years. One of the most advanced products that PharmaNex has come up with to date is the ageLOC Youth, which is really the flagship product in the ageLOC category, being able to target the genetic sources of aging systemically and mimicking the effects of caloric restriction. And to dive deeper into the science, we have Tanner Gibb. He's one of our chief educators over at PharmaNex. We're honored to have you here, Tanner, and I'm going to turn the remainder of the time over to you to tell us about ageLOC Youth.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Happy to be here and talk a little bit more in depth about some of the science behind ageLOC Youth. So let's dive right in. ageLOC Youth is our most advanced anti-aging product that we have ever launched in the history of our company. Of course, that could change as we continue to innovate and launch new products in the future, but to date, this is the most innovative and the most complete and comprehensive just research and development and work that has gone into a single product. And so I'm excited about talking about this product. First of all, ageLOC Youth, so why is it our most advanced? Well, it's because it targets this very key concept that we call youth span, okay? Youth span is about the years that you can enjoy life being more active, energetic, and healthy. This is very significant because in our research, we've been able to see that one of the greatest fears of aging isn't so much lines and wrinkles that exists, isn't so much, whatever it might be that you can think of. It's actually one of the greatest fears of aging is not being able to do the things that you love. And for many people, that's because they lack the energy, they lack the health to do those things, whether it be, play with your kids and your grandkids or travel the world or be active and play sports or play games, whatever it is that you love to do. If you don't have the health or the energy to do it, that's a big fear. And so this concept of youth span is right here as it describes on the slide. It's the number of years that you live with good health and good energy. But typically for the average person, that begins to decline, starting as early as the 20s to 30s and has a more rapid decline the older we get. But if we can improve or increase this youth span, in other words, better energy and better health, we can live a better life with better health and better energy, being more active and doing the things that we love. And so this is why we're really excited about this product and what it can do. This product is our most advanced anti-aging supplement ever. About 5 years of research and development went into creating this product. And these are the three major reasons why it is our go-to product for all things health related. Number one, it's developed from our proprietary gene expression insights into healthy aging. Number two, it's a proprietary blend of natural ingredients that are very difficult to obtain, if not impossible, even through a very healthy diet. And so even those who argue and say, well, I have a healthy diet, I don't need supplementation, they can still benefit from this product. And then number three, it modulates what we call aging defense mechanisms. So these are natural mechanisms that exist throughout the entire body that are controlled by gene expression and provide these systemic benefits. So first, let's talk about this gene expression research. I've mentioned before, but gene expression is something about measuring the activity of genes as they change with aging, okay? So each of these 20,000 genes that we have in all the cells, true cells in the body, well, some of them, they do change and shift in aging, and that impacts the aging process and our health and our wellness. You can see here, this is a study in the precortex, so looking at a part of the brain. You can see that with typical aging, so this is a model that's used where we just expect normal aging. This is what normal aging looks like at a gene expression level, so looking very deep into this. When you compare typical aging to healthy aging, you can see that there's a dramatic shift in the gene expression, and this is in data looking at over thousands of genes. There's actually over 3,000 genes in this particular heat map that we look at in the brain. And although data isn't shown here, there's other data that we have looking at other tissues in the body, things like muscle and liver and fat and heart, for example. But the healthy aging, this is a particular model that's been used to help improve health span and lifespan and better aging overall. So this is just a better health model. It's actually the only nutritional model that exists that really improves lifespan as we talk about just better health the longer we live. And so what we did is in this study, we took that same typical aging group, and the only difference is we gave them ageLOC Youth to see how close it would match or resemble the healthy aging model. And as you can see with ageLOC Youth, we were actually very impressed with these results. You can see that there is a very dramatic shift or change, that ageLOC Youth looks very, very similar to healthy aging. So even though they were living the typical aging life or lifestyle, just taking the product alone was able to switch the gears, so to speak, from a gene expression level to be able to reflect healthy gene expression in thousands of genes in the brain. And like I said, not pictured here, in other tissues throughout the body. So this is a very unique ingredient blend. Like I mentioned before, there are some unique health benefits to each of the ingredients, and these were selected based on our gene expression screenings that we've done, where we look at the best anti-aging ingredients and screen them for gene expression changes and select the ones that make the most sense for the systemic benefits in this product. But also, some of the ingredients were selected based on the best in third-party literature. So we look at the scientific literature when we formulate products to see what are the ingredients that are well substantiated, that are well studied for some of the more dramatic anti-aging benefits we were looking for in this product. When we look at the ingredient blend, after selecting based on these factors, we realized that many of these ingredients are found in foods around the world that are known for longevity and health and wellness benefits. For example, in Peru, they eat a lot of purple corn. Purple corn, they use it quite a bit, and it's a kind of a superfood where it has these super antioxidants, what we call anthocyanins. It's what provides some of the dark, rich purple, reddish color to the corn. Yeah, it's a very unique purple corn. I should mention here that we've looked at many different purple corn sources from around the world. We've looked from Peru, from the States, from China, and we found that the source of the ingredient matters drastically, which is why we chose the source from purple corn. It's a hot water extract, purple corn extract that we actually put inside of our product to be able to match or mimic more closely some of the health benefits of this superfood in Peru. You look at the France region there, we have fish or anchovies. Omega-3s are very beneficial for cardiovascular health. In fact, Harvard has estimated that over 80,000 people a year die prematurely because of a deficiency or a lack of omega-3 fatty acids. These are the EPA and DHA that you get from fatty fish, things like salmon, or more common like anchovies and sardines in parts of Europe. One thing I'll mention here as well is our omega-3 fatty acids that we actually do get from anchovies. That's our primary source. They're very pure, they're very clean, they're highly tested for things like heavy metals. No one wants a lot of mercury in their fish oil. That's why we pride ourselves in getting the best quality and the most pure source of fish oil in the world. Resveratrol, you can actually get from red wine. Of course, you'd have to drink a lot of red wine to get the dose that we have in our product. We're talking 15 to 30 glasses. I'm not recommending that or endorsing that. But resveratrol is one of the compounds in red wine that's part of this French paradox, if you will, where people in France tend to live well and have healthier lives compared to other parts of the world, even though they tend to have diets that are higher in some processed foods or saturated fats. But red wine is part of the potentially the protective benefits, and resveratrol does have some nice studies for being able to mimic healthy aging in the body. It's a very powerful antioxidant. We go around the world. The Mediterranean diet is actually one of the most popular and one of the most famously studied diets for its health on healthy weight management and metabolism and so on and so forth. Some of the ingredients there that I'll highlight here is the lycopene from tomatoes and the citrus bioflavonoids from citrus fruits. So citrus fruits are very powerful, except for a lot of these bioflavonoid compounds are actually not found inside of the fruit itself. They're found on the outside portion of the rind of the fruit. And so we have a bioflavonoid extract where they actually crush up the peel or the rind of the fruit, and to be able to concentrate some of these very active, very important compounds from citrus. And so you're not getting that even if you eat a lot of citrus fruits, unless you eat the peel, which isn't very desirable in many parts of the world. In America, I know I've tried it myself. It's very bitter, and so I can't tolerate it. And the Mediterranean diet, they eat a lot of tomato products as well, a lot of pasta. In fact, when I was looking at lycopene data around the world, the U.S. and a part of the Mediterranean region are #1 around the world because of spaghetti intake in the Mediterranean region and because of French fries and tomatoes here in the United States. And so very, very drastic differences there. But lycopene, it's another very powerful carotenoid that's measured by the scanner. One of the reasons why the ageLOC Youth product is scanner certified. We haven't even gotten to Japan yet, but maybe I'll highlight just a few of those ingredients over there. So fermented foods are not a very common food or staple in the typical American diet, yet fermented foods have a lot of very beneficial compounds. One of those is called vitamin K2. There's actually some research and debate out there that vitamin K2 should be called its own separate vitamin instead of looped in the vitamin K family. Even though they have similar chemical structures, vitamin K2 can do things that vitamin K1 cannot. For example, provide some additional cardiovascular benefits that you don't get from K1. It also stays in the serum a lot longer and is better absorbed than K1 as well. So K2 really is the super vitamin that we're very deficient in our American diets. Yet the Japanese, because of the Japanese natto and other fermented foods, they tend to get a little bit higher intakes than we do in America. More fish products, onion, that's a source of quercetin, which is another powerful antioxidant as well. And so the bottom line is that even if someone has a very healthy diet because of personal preferences, where they don't like, the peel of the fruit, or because of geography, where they're not traveling the world and eating all these foods on a regular basis, or because of consistent and precise dose, most people aren't getting enough or even the right dose of a lot of these ingredients. Resveratrol, rosemary are good examples, omega-3s as well. In fact, the ideal recommended intake based on a lot of the research that we've seen is about 1,000 milligrams a day of EPA and DHA. The average intake in America is 100 milligrams. And so they're about 90% short of where they should be. And even at that level, there are some thought out there about, even higher levels of omega-3s that can provide some additional benefits for certain populations. So that said, we've talked about the gene expression and we've talked about the ingredient blend. Let's talk about these mechanisms that support benefits throughout the entire body. So these are mechanisms that defend against what we call aging aggressors, okay? These are going to be things like free radicals and sun pollution and stress and inflammation. These are things that are accelerating the aging process systemically. And so these are the natural mechanisms that protect against these free radicals, right, and aging aggressors. ADMs are found throughout the entire body. These aren't mechanisms that are just located in our digestive or immune or brain or tract. I mean, it's throughout the entire body, and that's why it makes sense. If you can support these mechanisms, you can support benefits systemically throughout the entire body. But the problem is that with aging, and like many things, they tend to decline in their function and efficiency. So, this mechanism that kept us healthy when we were in our 20s and our 30s, started to decline. This mechanism that kept our brain sharp and clear and focused in our 20s and 30s started to decline. And so we started to notice, changes in our brain function and our memory and things like that. These mechanisms, they tend to work well, but they decline. The important factor here is that they require a healthy and youthful gene expression to operate at its optimal level. And that's why our science and what we've done with LifeGen in screening ingredients and looking at gene expression changes is the best way to be able to provide a complete solution to systemic benefits throughout the body. So we talk about these aging defense mechanisms and what they are. Well, let's actually list some of these and describe them briefly, why they're very important. Tissue renewal. When we talk about tissues and cells throughout the body, oftentimes people think that, we have the cells that we were born with, but in large measure, we don't. A lot of the tissues and cells in our body are very dynamic. They're very transient. So things like, red blood cells or white blood cells, a lot of the immune cells that we have in the body, even bone health is a really good example of tissue renewal. Bone is not a static tissue. Bone is a very dynamic thing where there's these osteoblasts and clasts that are on a regular basis either building bone or consuming bone. And so typically, that process is in our favor when we're younger, where bone is being strengthened and being fortified, and these osteoblasts are working stronger and better and more efficiently than the class over time. But with aging, that slows down. And that's why it can lead to poor bone health over time and increased risk of fractures and other bone issues. And so a healthy tissue renewal in the bone and in other tissues throughout the body is all about supporting that healthy, dynamic ability of making new cells in the body, making them as healthy and as youthful as possible. Metabolism. This is another very key mechanism, because when we talk about metabolism, we're mostly referring to lipid metabolism and glucose metabolism. And when we're young, usually in our teens, in our 20s and 30s, well, even in our 20s, in our 30s, it starts to decline. But our ability to use fat as a source for energy is good, but it slows down with aging. Also, our ability to be able to tolerate glucose can decline with aging as well. And so this ability to help with metabolism isn't so much a dramatic or a quick weight loss fix. In fact, I don't recommend ageLOC Youth for that reason. But what I do recommend ageLOC Youth for in terms of its benefit on this ADM of metabolism is to be able to fight that normal age-related change in that, fat metabolism slows, fat storage increases, and there's a lot of nice, powerful ingredients in ageLOC Youth, like, for example, alpha lipoic acid, that helps to better support a healthy metabolism and a more youthful metabolism in the body. Antioxidant defense. This is another very important mechanism. What I want to highlight here is that there are two key parts to our antioxidant defense. Number one is going to be the extrinsic antioxidants. These are things like vitamin C and vitamin E that we get from diet. These are very popular, well-known antioxidants that are very important. But also, what's well known or not as well known, for example, are going to be these intrinsic antioxidants. So these are antioxidants that are built up from different enzymes and cofactors, things like glutathione, for example, that can be increased through this ageLOC Youth product. So it's not just about targeting just these extrinsic sources. It's about the intrinsic ones that many can argue are actually even more beneficial because they're more active. They're very important. Glutathione is considered by some to be one of the more important antioxidants just because it's involved in detoxification, in conjugating a lot of the toxins that we have in the body. It's a powerful antioxidant. It's a very powerful regulator of how healthy the cell is and how it functions in terms of when it's exposed to different stressors and things like that. Moving on from antioxidants,
Tanner, I have a quick question about glutathione because, and I'm not sure if you're the right person to ask about this, but Pharmanex does not have glutathione in the ageLOC Youth product.
Yes, very good point.
So
Maybe
explain to us why they do not have it in there and how they end up improving that if you're familiar with that research.
Absolutely. So glutathione, it's a very big molecule that's not absorbed well. And so even if you take a direct glutathione supplement, it's not going to be absorbed very well. And so the reason you can't just we didn't put it in there is because absorption is very important to us, and there's a more efficient way, and that's through using certain ingredients that can actually boost or build your body's own natural production of glutathione. And so these are going to be some of the ingredients that have been studied for that are going to be things like resveratrol and alpha lipoic acid. In fact, alpha lipoic acid is one of my very favorites for that reason as well. Because we understand the importance of glutathione. It's a downstream regulator of NRF2, which is one of the most important pathways for detox and cell signaling and cell health as it relates to these toxins and waste buildup that happens inside of our cells. And so we're very cognizant of that and understand the importance of the whole antioxidant network to be able to boost the intrinsic and the extrinsic ones.
And my understanding that it's also difficult to maintain good levels of glutathione without having a good carotenoid structure because that oxidation is getting past that first line of defense, and glutathione then gets weakened by it. So having high levels of carotenoids help maintain better levels of glutathione.
Absolutely. Yeah, there is a correlation that we've seen, even in some of our scanner studies that we've done where we can look at and measure carotenoid antioxidants and see that there is a correlation where if you have higher carotenoids, there is a higher correlation between other antioxidant vitamins like vitamin C and vitamin E and glutathione as well. And that makes sense just because carotenoids, they are the first line of defense. And so it protects the other vitamin antioxidants and plant X antioxidants and glutathione as well. And it really releases them to be able to do other things and other functions in the body like detoxification and stress response instead of just serving as an antioxidant. So it's a very good point. So moving on to the next ADM or aging defense mechanism is inflammatory balance. So inflammation is really crucial because inflammation is actually normal. It's a good thing. When you get infected with a particular bacteria or virus, you want a very rapid and immediate and extensive inflammatory response, right? So you have all these different immune cells that secrete inflammatory chemicals and compounds that increase inflammation in the body, and inflammation is actually used to be able to fight off some of the bacteria and the virus and the infections that we're exposed to on a regular basis. And so normal inflammation is good and it's healthy for us. The problem is that when when we're exposed to some kind of stressor or infection, and the inflammatory response, it misfires, or it's misdiagnosed, or it continues to fire where it shouldn't. In other words, it's not doing its job effectively. That's when it leads to something that we call chronic low-grade inflammation. And this chronic inflammation is what's linked to just about every age-related condition that you can think of. And that's just because there's a dysregulation in our immune system's function to be able to use these inflammatory compounds to be able to fight infection and keep us healthy and keep us safe. And so inflammation, I actually have an example of that in the next slide, where I'll give an example of how inflammation plays a crucial role, and how some of the ingredients in our ageLOC Youth Blend can actually have a dramatic influence on being able to support a healthy inflammatory balance in the body. DNA protection and repair is the last ADM here. This is kind of a given. Obviously, DNA is the backbone of who we are. It's what makes us who we are and why we're unique. DNA, within segments of DNA are what we call genes and gene expression, but the bottom line is that DNA is a very active thing inside of our cells. It has a natural protection mechanism and a natural repair mechanism, and that tends to slow with aging. But with ageLOC Youth, we're all about supporting this healthy DNA protection and repair throughout the body to be able to keep our bodies healthy and young and feeling good. So like I just mentioned, inflammatory balance, to me, is really one of the crucial aging defense mechanisms, just because, with aging, there's a lot of impairment and inflammation and dysregulation of this process, and chronic inflammation is widespread with aging and with issues that happen. And so in this particular study, it's very crucial to look at. So you can see subjects were actually given one ageLOC ingredient in our youth formula in this randomized placebo-controlled trial. And this was for 1 year. And they looked at different markers of inflammation. You can see C-reactive protein. It's one of the major markers of more systemic inflammation throughout the body, tumor necrosis factor alpha, and then some of the interleukins. It's a ratio between the 6 and the 10. And you can see from this study, if you actually do pull up the study by Tomé Carneiro that was published in 2012, you'll see that the group of people being studied here are actually patients who are taking the gold standard treatment for their condition, okay? So these are patients that are being well taken care of, and they're using, the gold standard of what's considered to be, healthy and good to monitor their condition. But you can see, even though the placebo and the treatment group both received that gold standard treatment, the treatment group was the only group that received this additional, anti-aging ingredient. Resveratrol was the one, just to call it out here on this study. But you can see that in terms of the placebo, even with that standard treatment, they're seeing really no changes in inflammation or bettering inflammation throughout the body. But with the resveratrol ingredient, you could see dramatic changes or decreases from baseline in terms of the body's ability to better manage an inflammatory response and help with this low-grade chronic inflammation, which is very abundantly found in a lot of individuals that are suffering from conditions around the world. And so the point that I want to make here is that this study didn't interfere with the normal treatment, right? It was given in addition to the standard treatment to see some additive or some additional benefits that aren't being addressed by the standard care, okay? Obviously, these mechanisms are working throughout the body, and so it makes sense that we're going to experience systemic benefits. And by systemic, we're talking whole body. From your brain to your toes. We talk about things like better brain health and supporting skin health. A lot of people notice that. I've actually noticed that with taking the product myself. I've noticed better focus and better attention. I've noticed better skin health. I used to be a soccer player. I still am. But I used to play all the time and every day, and I'd be out in the sun just taking a beating from those rays, the UVA and UVB, that did a toll on my skin. And so my skin has actually seen a nice improvement in terms of its radiance and youthful look as I've taken this product. Cellular health, this is a benefit that isn't necessarily felt, but it's something that is happening because of the studies and that aren't being shown here, but by request, we're happy to support all of these benefits with the ingredients in the amounts that we have in this product. Metabolic health, talking about lipid and glucose metabolism, bone health, physical performance, eye health, heart health, immune health, joint health, and other things not listed here from the testimonies that we receive around the world. And so this really is a great product that's changing lives. I've been able to travel the world and talk to different people from, Australia to Southeast Asia to New Zealand and Tahiti and the Americas and South America. It's a product that changes lives, where often what's interesting to me, and maybe this is a little bit of a tangent, but a lot of times people don't know what they're missing out on until they actually take the product. I've talked to a lot of people that just said, I'm okay, I'm cruising along in life, I'm suffering a bit, as we all are. We all have our ailments and our issues that we're working with or working through, and they don't notice, what they're missing out on in life until they actually take the product. And this is a product based on this concept of use span, going back to the beginning. It's about energy and activity and overall health and wellness. And it's just amazing to see, really the culmination of our efforts with LifeGen, as we've built up products over the years in terms of our ageLOC Vitality and ageLOC R Squared and our ageLOC TR90, which is a weight management system. Over the course of 5 years, we've now been able to create ageLOC Youth, that was launched originally back in 2015, but it's been out for a few years now, and it still is one of our top sellers, not only in the Americas, but globally, just because of the dramatic change that it has in the lives of people who take it. So all of that is good, and maybe a little bit of puffery, right, from the marketing side on my end, but it's important to see that there is really good scientific substantiation behind the product. And so this actually began with looking at the literature. We wanted to make sure that we were looking at the science, we're looking at the studies, we're looking at the ingredients that are able to match, healthy aging and reflect healthy aging in the body. Of course, we combined the literature review with our gene expression research, which is internal and proprietary, but it's something that allows us to be able to screen for ingredients like no one else in the world. Combining those two things, we've also done some additional clinical studies at different universities and with different partners to be able to validate just some of these health benefits that we've seen in the literature. So this is just one of those studies. This is what we call the ADM study, or Aging Defense Mechanism study. In this study, what we did is we had volunteers who either took the product or not for 2 months, okay? And what we did is we exposed their skin, non-sun exposed skin, to UV light, okay? 0 MED is a 0 dose of that light, so that's kind of your control. 1 MED is the amount of light that's used to induce a sunburn on the skin. 2 MED is twice that dose, and 3 MED is 3 times that dose. And so what you can see is before taking ageLOC Youth, you can see with the 1 MED that there is a dramatic change in the redness. The redness or the circle, that's actually the diameter of the light that was induced on that particular area of the skin. With the 2 MED and the 3 MED, what's interesting to me is that you can see that spread of redness. Even though it was only on that diameter, that spread is very indicative of inflammation, which is an indicator of damage and that's happening on the skin. With 2 months of taking ageLOC Youth, you can see with the 1 MED, there's a very different redness. In fact, it's very hard to tell if there is any redness. So there's a nice protective effect. It's a good indicator that these ADMs are working, that there's cell protection, there's DNA protection, there's DNA repair happening there to be able to fight that off. And then what's interesting about the 2 MED and the 3 MED here in this image, and this is just one subject, there's many different pictures that we have, but you can see here that there appears to be a control of that spreading of inflammation, which is indicative of just better protection and DNA protection repair happening there at a cellular level. The right column over there is going to be the average number of damaged cells, and you can see that there's almost a halving or in the ageLOC Youth group. So it's about half the damage that's occurring, which also further confirms that it really is protecting the skin against this, the UV rays, which is one of the primary causes of aging on the skin. And so although this study was only done on the skin, we wanted to show it on the skin because the skin really is a good model for looking at aging throughout the body. And so that's the reason why we study the skin. It's visible, we can see it, we can detect the difference, but it's about these ADMs working throughout the rest of the body. And one thing I'll mention before I actually move on there, this study was published, and we do have a write-up for that available upon request, and the published study is available as well. So in a different leg of the same study, we wanted to look at skin attributes and skin health overall. So as it was assessed by a dermatologist and through self-assessment, we looked at different criteria, things like radiance and texture and overall appearance, and then radiance and firmness as well for the self-assessment. So according to the dermatologist assessment, you can actually see a dramatic improvement in these skin attributes over time. And this is from taking the product as directed, morning and night. And I'm not sure if I can see the numbers there or if it's very visible on the screen, but these are all significant changes from the dermatologist viewpoint, but also from the self-assessment. And this is blinded as well to be able to not know, where the patient started versus where they ended. Elasticity, that's another important marker of skin health. How elastic your skin has to do with elastin and other proteins that give the skin that fling back effect. So if you were to pinch your skin, your cheek, and if it flings back, it means that you have a good amount of elasticity. But if you pinch your skin on your cheek and it kind of stays out there for a while, it doesn't have that elastic fling back action, then it means that you're lacking some of that. And so what's interesting about this study is that there was actually a dramatic improvement or increase in the elasticity of the skin. And so it's just another marker of showing improvements in skin health over time after taking this product. So the brain health study, this is actually my personal favorite. So this is a study where we partnered with researchers at the U of U. You can see at the bottom there, Jürgen Todd and Renshaw. These are the primary researchers from the U of U who partnered with us to be able to do this fMRI study. So this is a functional MRI. We did different testing in a resting phase and in an active phase. This particular slide just is kind of a teaser where it shows some of the resting phase of the study. So at rest, this is where the subjects took youth or didn't take ageLOC youth, and they look at their brain at rest. So they look at the activity of their brain when they're just lying down. So in another phase of the study that we'll hopefully be able to release shortly, there's actually an active phase where the brain was being tested, in terms of different ways to test the brain about, memory or recall or function. So while the brain is being actively tested, you can see how there is a difference in activity as well. But in the resting phase, we're actually very impressed with some of the results that we've seen in terms of improved activity as it relates to things like attention, memory, and error detection. There were actually some other cognitive tests that went along with this, where we can saw some significant improvements in terms of memory, verbal fluency, and mood. One of the regions of the brain is called the orbital frontal cortex, okay? This is a region of the brain that's involved in the cognitive processing of decision making. And what we've been able to see, these are actual images from the study, is what's hard to describe, but it's really an uncoupling effect where there's actually decreased chatter between regions of the brain that frees up these neural resources to be able to allocate them to other areas of the brain. And so really what this study and this part of the study showed us in this region of the brain is this uncoupling effect is all about neural efficiency. And that's one of the things that we're really impressed with in this region. In some regions of the brain, you do want it to be more active. In other regions of the brain, more activity isn't always better. It's more about neural efficiency and using some of those resources or freeing them up. In fact, that's what a lot of people strive for, is to get a quicker response or a more automatic response as it relates to being able to, make decisions a little bit more quickly, a little bit more effectively. And so, even though the images, they're not perfect, they're actual images from the study. As we publish or get closer to publishing this research, we'll be able to share a little bit more insight and a little bit more detail into why we're so excited about some of the brain changes that we see with ageLOC Youth. And with that, I'll close just by saying that ageLOC Youth, it is our most advanced anti-aging product that we've launched over the years. It's changed lives around the world. It's something based on our most complete and comprehensive gene expression testing to date. It's got a blend of nutrients that are hard, if not difficult, to obtain even from a healthy diet. And it supports these mechanisms throughout the body that are so important for aging, which is why we see such dramatic results.
Thanks so much, Tanner. And I'll share with you my personal experience with it. When we got some samples of that to try, I had gone out with some friends to play golf on the beach. And I was probably out for about 3 hours, forgot my sunblock. It was high noon. I came back and my wife was like, did you guys go play golf? I'm like, yeah, why? And she goes, well, you don't look like you were out in the sun at all. And this was before we even knew about the sun benefits of this. And then when this study came out, I'm like, oh, that makes so much sense right now. And then another one on brain performance. I had a concussion a while back, and I was doing some brain training exercises at a neurological clinic where they are basically testing you and your speed and hand-eye coordination, and they're distracting your brain with reading something while you're hitting lights on a wall and all types of other interesting tests. And the lady that was doing the test on me asked me if I did karate, and I said, why? And she goes, well, you're super fast, and the only people that we see that are this fast are either drummers or people that do martial arts. I'm like, nope, I don't do any of those things. But I'm like, I have noticed that reflexes, and a lot of people do report that reflexes seem to be faster when taking the ageLOC Youth and the Vitality. So it's interesting that I actually had some objective data that was showing that type of speed.
Yeah, no, that's cool. And that's one of many. I've traveled the world and heard, countless stories that we could spend all day telling all the testimonials, but.
Yeah. Well, Tanner, thanks so much for spending some time with here tonight. I hope that you guys found this webinar helpful for you. And again, these three products coupled together, which is what I take, my wife takes, and many of my colleagues take, they work really well because getting your foundational nutrition right and then enhancing it with a systemic approach with ageLOC Youth, and then a targeted approach with ageLOC Vitality. When the basic nutrition is there, then the genetic products work better as well. So they're great. These are great products to take together complementary. So again, thanks everybody for joining us here today. Have a great evening.